In this video, I'm going to do a step-by-step guide to make the mini Wi-Fi board that I've designed here. So I've gone through a number of different revisions to get to this final product. And I've tried to make it as simple as possible to make, but yet give you a nice finished product at the end of it. So it just works like a normal Wi-Fi board, except I only use the 6 GPIO pins. So just plug it in and it's ready to go. Before we get started on the video, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of this video, PCBWay. They not only offer PCB boards, but they can do 3D printing and CNC machining. If you have any projects that need any of these services, I would highly recommend you check them out. So I've used them for some of the 3D printed parts, the like clear resin for the transparent shell for the Flipper Zero, and also some other clear cases that I've got printed, and they've pretty much turned out like glass, so the quality of them has been really good. I've also got some PCB boards made from them as well, and they've all been good quality and they've worked. So yeah, definitely check them out. And now let's get started on the video. So what you're going to need to make the mini Wi-Fi board is you're going to need some GPIO pins, an ESP32, a push button, and some LEDs. And you're going to need some silicone wire. I'm using 30 AWG. So yeah, I highly recommend you get some silicone wire, and I'll put a link to this one in the description of the video. What else are you going to need? You're going to need some super glue, and also if you want, you're going to get one of my STLs so you can print your own cover for it. And I'll also put the STL for the base. So essentially the base is just a little stand for it essentially. So with the push button and the LEDs, they're sort of optional, but I'd probably recommend the push button at the very minimal. And so the first part to make this is we're going to need to get the GPIO pins out. So these are 20mm long, and we just want to pull out, so we can actually, let's just count. So you want to break it off at every 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you just snap it. So we're going to need to do that 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to need those 3. And then we just want to actually pull the pins out. So just pull it from the side that's furthest away from the plastic. Just make it a bit easier. So we want to do this to all of them. So essentially all we're going to be left with is the plastic and then the GPIO pins. So once we got all the pins out of it, what we want to do next is we want to grab something that's got like a female header, or even one of these if you've got it. So I'll just use this for the demonstration. And then we just want to get one of the plastic bits and just put one pin on each side to start with, and then we can put it into the header, and just push it all the way down to the bottom. So what this is going to do is going to give you a perfect spacing. So when you pull it out, it's going to be the right depth essentially. And then you want to put another one in. So you want another plastic piece. And just push it all the way down. And then we just want to get another 4 pins and just to put them in. Just push it all the way down as well. So yeah, just want to make sure they're pretty much all level. And it should look like that. The next step I probably want to do is just get some super glue. So let's put some super glue on this one, just to make it a bit easier. And you just grab one of the GPIO pins and just get some super glue. And then we just want to put it onto the bottom of the pin and the plastic. So we're just doing this so it holds it in place and they don't slide out later down the track. So you don't need too much, just enough to hold it essentially. So just enough to cover it. Then we can get the last plastic bit, and you want the grooves to be facing down. So on the bottom ones, the grooves were facing up like that, and on the top we just want it facing down. Just push it on, and you can just use it, just push it against the table, and it should be flat. So flush on the top, and then we just do the same and just put a little bit of glue on it. But yeah, try not to put too much glue on it, that it covers the pins in the middle. So that's it. So you should be left with something like, looks like that. You'd probably want to let it dry for a bit, let the glue dry before you go on to the next step. But just for the demonstration of this video, I'll just go to the next step. I'll just zoom out. So the next step is you want to carefully put it into, this should be dry. You can put it into the, what I do is I just put it into the flipper zero, like that. And then you want to get the ESP32 and just have a practice run where you want to place it. Zoom in. So you can do it two ways. You can either just place it against it and just make sure it's sitting flush against the base. And then you can use like a permanent marker just to mark out where it sits on the ESP32. The reason I put it on the flipper zero and do it this way is because the actual flipper zero, the way it's shaped, it sort of slants. It's not completely flat. So the way it sits on the ESP32, it's just the smallest slant onto it. So the next step is just get some super glue. So I can see where I need to put 2 lines of super glue. So get some glue. And just double check. You don't need much. So 2 strips like that. And be very careful with this step, because you don't want to get the super glue onto the flipper zero. So line it up so it's in the middle. Push it together, hold it, and then you can take it off the flipper zero. And yeah, I haven't got any super glue on it, so be very careful. But if you're not very confident with using super glue and stuff, I probably just recommend marking it out on this first, and then just super gluing it away from the flipper zero. So you'll end up with that. And the next step is we want to get the push button, and we want to snip off 2 of the legs. So I don't know if you can see. And the legs we want to snip off, so make sure it looks like this. It's facing this way, and you'll just make sure the orientation is correct. So the pins are on the same side, and then we want to cut the bottom one, and then we want to cut the top one on this side. So just flip it around and just cut the bottom one again, and it's going to look like that. The next step is we want to super glue this to the board, but we want to bend the pins up first, the legs, sorry. So bend the legs up. Should look like that. And then we're going to glue this to the ESP32. So the way you want to line it up is make sure the side of the switch is in line with this metal shell of the ESP32. So they should be completely in line. So let's get a bit of super glue. And then just make sure we're placing the switch on so it's in line with the metal bit. And push down. So yeah, push across so it's got some good adhesion on this side. Yeah, and that's what you should end up with. So the next step is we want to get some wire. We can get rid of these and the glue. And we'll get some wire. So I always like to use a little bit extra wire than I actually need. It's always better to have a bit more than you need, and you just always cut it off, as opposed to having too short of a wire and then needing some more. I need 2 pieces of the red. Try to set it up so you can see a bit better. Okay, so first pin here is the 3.3 volt. So 1, and then it's 2. Number 3 is for the ground. 4, 5. So number 5 goes to the RX of the ESP32, and number 6 goes to the TX on the ESP32. So I'll start wiring it up. Get my soldering iron ready. So the first one we'll do is pin 6. So just thread it through. I'll just solder that in. Just trim off the excess. So this is 6, so it's going to go to the TX. So it's going to go to this one here. So we can just pull the wire across, and then we just want to strip it just before where it needs to be soldered. That. So I need to take a little bit more off. So that looks good. Clamp it in place. And then just solder it. Like that. And then we just trim off the excess. So pin 6 goes to TX. And the next one we're going to do is pin 5. Let's get a bit more wire. You can thread it in, and if you put a little bit of a hook onto it, it's a bit easier. So when you thread it in, and just twist it, and you pull it straight out. And we'll just solder it in. Just do the same, cut off the excess. And this one will just go to the one right below it, so the RX. Do the same thing, so get it to where it needs to be, and then we can just strip the wire just using your fingernails. Just trim it off. It's going to look like that. The next one I want to do is we'll do the ground. So same thing, get some wire, put a little bit of a hook onto it, and this one's going to 3. Try it again. Looks fine. Clean it up. And this one's just going to go to the body of the ESP32. So the shell is essentially going to be the ground. So just strip it. Let's trim it first. Just solder it to the side. So it looks like that. And while we're at it, we can solder on the ground for the switch. So just make sure the switch leg is close to the side of the ESP32, just to the metal part, and we can solder that on. Like that. And the next wire we can do is from the switch, it's going to go to I00. So if you don't put the switch in, you don't need it. It's just when you do the programming of the ESP32, you're just going to have to essentially short I00 to a ground, and then that will allow you to program the ESP32. Just a little bit of solder. Sorry, I'm a bit shaky today because my arm's on the edge of the table, so it's not very comfortable. So yeah, we've got a wire there, and then all you need to do is just wire it to the I00, and I00 is directly on the bottom corner, so that's I00 there. So just run it directly down. So it's not difficult to do this, but just take your time, and definitely get the 30 AWG wire. It definitely makes the job a lot easier. That I can trim it. And then we're just going to get some 2 wires. And these are going to go to, we need 2 wires for the 3.3 volt and then the EN. So just get the wire and solder it on. Cut it off and just repeat on the 3.3. So yeah, I like to get the wire and just give it a fair bit of extra. That way you can use it to hold it in place. Just trim it off. And we'll just get this one. So these are both going to go to pin 1. So let's trim some of this off. Just create a bit of bend as well. Solder that on. trim it off. So the next step is optional if you want to put the LED in. So if you don't need an LED, you can just wire the 3.3 just directly to that to the first pin as well. But because I'm going to put an LED in, I'm just going to put this one has to go to the LED first. So let's get an LED. Just try to place it. See, this part's a bit tricky, especially if you're trying to film it. So yeah, it's been a bit of a pain. So what I might do first is I might just put a little bit of solder down. Then I'll get my tweezers to try and hold it while I solder it on. So yeah, the green side is going to go to the So yeah, the green side will go to the body, because that's the ground. And then we've got to wire up the positive side. So I'm going to get this and just strip it close. Get the right length. Hopefully. So just loop it around. And now this can just go to the pin one. And solder it in. So that's the last of the soldering. So it's not too difficult. Yeah, just take your time. And trim off the excess wire. And that's what you end up with. And then all you want to do is get the 3D printed shell. So, and I've also printed off just a white diffuser. So I'll get some super glue. Don't need much, just enough to hold it into place. Oops. Just goes into this corner. So yeah, I'll make all these STLs available on printables. So put it in, super glue in place. Look like that. Just get rid of some of this stuff. And then you should be able to just get the case and put it on. And it should look like that. So I'll just super glue it in place. You can also, before you do this, maybe you should test it out first. So just test it out first and then you can put it together. But I'll just, as a demonstration, I'll just show you how to put it together. So it just needs a little bit of glue on the top one, and then I'll just put some on the second one. So don't put it on the very bottom one, just those two is plenty. Just make sure the wires aren't getting squished on the side. And if it all looks good, just give it a nice press together. And make sure to have the pins up so the super glue doesn't trickle down. So just have it pointing up and let it dry. And that's it. Essentially, you've got yourself a mini Wi-Fi board. So yeah, once we're finished and got to that stage, I'll just show you how to flash the board as well. So I'm using Momentum, so it's quite easy on this. If we go to apps, GPIO, ESP, and then we go to the ESP flasher, quick flash, and go ESP32 room, and then I use the Marauder. It's also got Evil Portal on as well. So if we just get the mini Wi-Fi board, press the button and plug it in, and then let go, and it should be ready to flash. So it's just flashing now. So it takes a little while. And it's finished flashing. Let's get out, disconnect, and plug it in, and now I can try it. So if we go to Evil Portal, try start a portal. So it's set up the portal, and then we can also go to Marauder and do a start scan. And yeah, it's starting to scan. So that's how you make your own little mini Wi-Fi board. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.